Hey, it's Shana Meyerson with YOGAthletica in Los Angeles, California. Today, we press into handstand from a standing split. So this is just sort of the most basic press. It doesn't mean it's necessarily easy, but it is the simplest of the presses. In order to be able to do this one, you have to have a big old Hanumanasana. Hanumanasana being a split. So, check out my video on Hanumanasana if you need help with that, but you need to be practicing that on the daily. Why? Because the bigger your split, the higher your leg. The higher your leg, the less distance it has to travel to get to vertical. The less distance it has to travel to get to vertical, the less momentum you have to put behind it, right? We're looking for a press. The less momentum, the less speed. And the less speed you have behind it, the more control, because your body knows where your leg is at every point in the process, so it can control it. That being said, hands, of course, are shoulders distance, right? It's middle fingers facing forward, maybe second finger facing forward, but don't turn it out further than that. Your arms are going to have a micro bend, but it's not something you have to worry about too much. Your body actually has its own intelligence about this. Your body just knows, even if your mind doesn't, that when you bend your elbows, it ignites your biceps, giving you extra strength and stability for this or really for any pose. So, remember that the hands are not just on the floor, but they're pushing down into the floor. This is super important. The concept of a press is going to have a press element, hence the moniker, hands pressing down, and it's going to have a pull element, which is to say, my top leg. I'm using these terms very specifically because so many people lift their leg, but they still rely on the bottom leg to get them up. Remember that when you're pressing, your bottom leg is nothing more than an accessory to the crime. It's not doing anything but following the pose. It's your top leg that's actually going to pull you up, so you need to ignite. Now, as mentioned before, we want the biggest possible split. So, you didn't hear this from me, but open that hip. Watch what happens when my hip is square. This is not a dramatization. You see how high my leg is? Now what happens when I open my hip? You see the difference? Of course, when I get into my handstand, I'm going to have to bring that hip back to square. But for the process of lifting and knowing that I need that top leg super high, open the hip. Okay, so I know my hands are pressing, my top leg is high, and it's going to pull me as if it's trying to touch the ceiling. My bottom foot gets pulled onto even beyond the ball of the foot, because a lot of times we say tippy toes, but what we mean is ball of the foot. I actually mean to the toes. So this bottom foot, if I'm here on the ball of my foot, I still have a lot of sort of desire to kick up with it. But if I lift all the way to my tippy toe, not only does it get my top leg higher, right? That's the goal. But it gets my mind out of the mindset that my bottom foot is doing anything to help this process. My bottom foot does not kick. It does not jump. It only floats. So as my hands press strongly down, my hip opens, my top leg comes high. I'm going to come super high onto the toes of my left leg. And now look how close my bottom leg is to my chest. Close is an understatement. It's actually touching my chest, right? So that compression, what does it accomplish? Core, 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 right? No matter what the question, the answer is always core. But the confusion comes in that people view core this way, meaning a round spine. So they come in, you see how my spine is round? Thinking compress. But that's not how this one goes. If you watched my Secret to All of Yoga videos, and I'm sure you did, but if you didn't, make sure you do, okay, because it's the secret to all of yoga. I mean, you know that not only do you have to pull in, but at the same time, you have to lengthen. That's the rub. So even as I compress, look at my upper back. Instead of rounding, I'm extending. So what it feels like is like my shoulder blades are pushing through, really like the beginnings of a back bend, okay? So that energy is going to compound the core engagement to make it that much more efficient. So you got to make sure you don't roll your shoulders, but keep the shoulders in the back in open position. Once you've made it that far, so my hip is open, I'm going to be high on my toes in a second when I'm ready to go. I press into what part of my hand? The heel of my palm. Remember, the heel of my palm is what presses me up into the air. So as I lean, right now my shoulders are slightly behind my wrists. I'm going to lean to the point where they get just basically, sorry, I lifted prematurely, above my wrist. You see how now I'm just literally on my big toe. At this point, I have taken my bottom leg out of the equation. All that's left are my top leg that's going to have to pull me to the ceiling, the heels of my palm. They're going to push me down. Why? For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Yes, thank you, science teacher, which means that as I press down, I lift up. That's my first goal. But as I press into the back of my hand, it moves me forward, right? Both are opposite reactions. Okay, so my thigh is to my chest. I lean forward, shoulders will come over my wrist, and I stretch my top leg up. You see how incidental my bottom leg was to that process. And as I lift my hips, I wind up in sort of an L. You want to be able to hold this shape before considering lifting the second leg. Okay? Why? Well, for a number of reasons. First of all, if you lift it too fast, you're going over. If you move fast, you fall fast. Okay? But second, if you keep your leg low instead of thinking of lifting it up, it helps to take your mind out of the bottom leg. All of your focus in the press should be in the top leg once again. The bottom leg is just along for the ride. Now, your bottom leg is actually going to do something, right? We don't just want dead weight, because dead weight is like ploppy, right? So the bottom leg, the thing you need to be thinking about is instead of having it just hanging out there and, whatever, dead weight, as previously mentioned, you take the femur and you pull it into the hip socket. Okay, and what this is going to do is it's going to ignite your leg so that it becomes a part of the process instead of working against it. So again, the bottom leg engages, but it's not in the lifting process. It's being dragged along for the ride. So again, my hands, shoulders distance, middle finger or ring, or that's not my ring finger. If I had a ring, maybe I'd know which one was my ring finger. Anybody want to give me one? Just let me know. I'm available. And pointer finger is facing forward. So again, my hip is open to maximize that lift. In a moment, I'm going to be coming to my tippy toe so as to take it out of the equation. As I lean, shoulders remain broad, and I get my shoulders over my wrists, to pull my hips up. You want to maintain this energy before slowly lifting your second leg. Here's the thing. Read my lips. You will never learn to press if you consistently try to jump. Now, I know this can be super frustrating, and potentially for a long time, your bottom foot won't even leave the floor. But as soon as you start taking these hops, you're out of the pressing game. So you gotta decide if pressing is your goal, you have to commit to that goal. And that means there may be days or months or years of nothing but this. But I'm telling you, one day it's going to click. How do I know? Because that was my experience. Don't get frustrated with the process. If it doesn't work, you try again. This is Shana Meyerson with YOGAthletica in Los Angeles, California. Here to impress you every day. Be sure to check out, by the way, my Venmo channel of full-length classes. When you're ready to get super serious about your practice and move beyond just circus tricks, my Venmo channel provides full-length classes, long ones, short ones, hard ones, easy ones, beginner, intermediate, and advanced. No matter what it is you want, I got it. Have a great day.